Sandcastle in a tsunami. But surely your species must live in constant terror? Marcus burst out laughing, a sound that somehow conveyed both humor and something distinctly unsettling. Terror? Professor, we turned fear into a business model. Ever heard of horror movies? We pay money to be scared. We built entire industries around making ourselves jump out of our seats screaming. That's insane, Kip squeaked from under his desk, where he'd been hiding since the third fainting spell. Gets better, Marcus grinned. We also invented something called extreme sports. Jumping out of perfectly good aircraft, climbing vertical rock faces with nothing but fingertips and stubbornness, surfing waves that could crush buildings. Some humans strap rockets to their backs and call it a hobby. Vex 9's mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. They just hung open in stunned silence. But here's my personal favorite, Marcus continued, clearly enjoying himself now. We invented something called wrestling. And not just with each other, mind you. There are humans who wrestle alligators. For fun. For money. Sometimes just for bragging rights at family barbecues. Alligators? Zara 3's crystalline form was now pulsing between colors that probably didn't have names yet. Armored predators with the bite force of a hydraulic press and the patience of a statue. They can hold their breath underwater for hours, waiting for prey. They've survived since the dinosaurs by being perfect killing machines. Marcus paused for effect. Steve Irwin used to jump on them barehanded while his wife filmed it for educational television. The silence that followed was so complete, Vex 9 could hear his own hearts beating in different time signatures. Educational, he finally managed. Oh yeah, big hit with families. Kids loved watching humans interact with deadly animals like they were oversized house cats. We had whole TV channels dedicated to it. Still do, actually. Marcus stood up and casually hoisted the T-Rex skull again, apparently oblivious to the fact that everyone else in the room was having various forms of mental breakdowns. Course, that's just recreational terror. When humans really want to prove a point, we get creative. Ever wonder why no galactic power has tried to invade Earth? Because of your military? Vex 9 ventured hopefully. Nah, that's just the obvious stuff. It's because of Florida man. Florida. Man? Marcus nodded solemnly. Subspecies of human known for wrestling alligators, surviving hurricanes by sheer willpower, and treating natural disasters like minor inconveniences. Last time someone tried to scout our planet, they landed in Florida. The reconnaissance team found one human fighting a 12-foot alligator with a lawn chair while his buddy filmed it for social media points. Social media points? Imaginary internet validation. Humans will risk death for the approval of strangers. It's simultaneously our greatest weakness and our most terrifying strength. Vex 9 slid slowly down the doorframe until he was sitting on the floor, staring at nothing. My species conquered 17 star systems by being the most feared predators in known space. That's nice, Marcus said encouragingly. Very impressive, really. Though I should probably mention that humans have a saying about that sort of thing. Which is, it's not the size of the predator in the fight that matters. It's the size of the fight in the predator. Marcus grinned, and for the first time, Vex 9 noticed that human teeth weren't designed for cutting or tearing. They were designed for grinding. For persistence. For never, ever giving up. Now then, Professor, Marcus said, settling back into his chair with the ancient death machine skull resting casually beside his notebook, shall we continue with that lesson on predator psychology? I have some fascinating insights about pack hunting strategies and the psychological impact of persistence predation. Vex 9 looked at his own skull, then at Marcus's, then at the human who had somehow turned his intimidation classroom into a seminar on why organic life forms should be absolutely terrified of humanity. Class resumed, he whispered, because honestly, what else could he do? After all, he was beginning to suspect that in any real contest of predatory psychology, he wasn't the teacher in this room, was definitely the student. Vex 9 clicked his mandibles nervously as he adjusted the ceremonial skull on his desk. The thing was massive, even by Karathi standards. 3 eye sockets, razor-sharp teeth still gleaming after 2 centuries, and horn ridges that could split a starship whole. Perfect for intimidating these soft, pink creatures the Galactic Council insisted on calling students. Another species thinks they can handle advanced predator psychology, he muttered, his voice carrying that distinctive Karathi rasp that made prey animals flee in terror across 17 star systems. How delightfully naive. The classroom door hissed open, and Vex 9's confidence wavered slightly. The human wasn't what he'd expected. Where other species cowered at doorways, this one strolled in like he owned the place. Marcus Webb, according to the roster. Average height for a human, which meant freakishly tall by galactic standards. Brown hair, casual stride, and, oh, what was that under his arm? Good morning, Professor, Marcus said, his voice carrying an odd tone Vex 9 couldn't quite place. Amusement? I hope you don't mind, I brought a visual aid for today's lesson. Vex 9's three eyes widened as Marcus placed his own skull on the neighboring desk. If Vex 9's trophy was impressive, this thing was absolutely terrifying. Elongated cranium, massive jaw structure, and teeth that belonged in nightmares. The eye sockets were enormous, dark, and seemed to stare directly into one's soul. What in the seven hells is that? Vex 9 croaked, his intimidating rasp now sounding more like a question mark had mated with uncertainty. Marcus grinned, revealing his own decidedly non-threatening teeth. Oh, this? Just a little something from back home. Thought it might add to the ambience. You know how it is with predator psychology and all. The other students began filing in. There was Zara 3, a Venetian crystalline being who literally sparkled when nervous. Currently, she looked like a disco ball having an anxiety attack. Then came Kip, a furry Blaxian whose species was known for being perpetually terrified of everything. He took one look at both skulls and promptly fainted. Excellent, Marcus said, seemingly oblivious to the chaos his arrival had caused. Nothing like a good skull to set the mood for learning. Vex 9 tried to regain his composure. He was, after all, a decorated professor who had intimidated students from 47 different species. One human with a questionable decorating sense wasn't going to ruin his reputation. Class, he began, his voice cracking slightly, today we discuss the psychology of apex predators. Note the specimen I've brought. He gestured proudly to his Karathi war skull. This belonged to General Faxmore, who conquered the spiral arm campaigns. Observe the cranial ridge development, the Fong structure designed for maximum terror. Interesting, Marcus interrupted, examining Vex 9's skull with the casual interest of someone checking out produce at a market. Though I have to say, your guy here looks like he'd struggle with anything tougher than a particularly aggressive salad. The classroom fell silent. Even Kip, who had just regained consciousness, promptly fainted again. I beg your pardon? Vex 9's mandibles clicked dangerously. Oh, don't get me wrong, Marcus continued cheerfully, impressive specimen for sure. But look at those teeth. Clearly designed for cutting soft tissue, probably ambush hunting of smaller prey. The skull structure suggests excellent hearing but limited binocular vision. Classic pack hunter, right? Strength in numbers, not individual prowess. Vex 9 felt his intimidation factor dropping faster than a meteor through atmosphere. And I suppose your specimen represents superior predator evolution? Marcus's grin widened. Well, since you asked. He lifted his skull, and the classroom lighting seemed to dim in response. This beauty here? Tyrannosaurus rex. 67 million years old, but still the stuff of nightmares. Bite force of 12,800 pounds per square inch. Could crush a small vehicle without breaking a sweat. Though technically, they couldn't sweat, being reptilian and all. Zara 3's sparkles had escalated to full strobe mode. 2 more students had joined Kip in unconsciousness. 12,000. Vex 9 whispered, his voice barely audible. Oh, that's just the measured estimate, Marcus said casually. Some paleontologists think it could have been higher. And the best part? This wasn't even close to being the most dangerous thing on our planet at the time. We had flying reptiles with wingspans wider than starfighters, marine predators that made space krakens look cuddly, and pack hunters so efficient they make your Karathi warbands look like book clubs. But surely, Vex 9 stammered, such creatures would have eliminated all other life. Marcus laughed, and the sound somehow made every predator instinct in the room scream warnings. Oh, they tried. Extinction events, climate changes, meteor impacts. Life on Earth doesn't just survive, Professor. It gets creative. It adapts. It finds ways to thrive in conditions that would sterilize most worlds. He picked up the T-Rex skull effortlessly, holding it like it weighed nothing. And humans? We're the species that looked at these magnificent killing machines and said, hey, let's dig up their bones, put them in museums, and let our children play with plastic versions. The remaining conscious students stared in horror as Marcus casually tossed the ancient skull from hand to hand like it was a ball. We turned our apex predators into entertainment. We made them extinct, then brought them back to life in movies just so we could watch them eat people and sell popcorn during the show. That's peak human behavior right there. Vex 9 realized his carefully planned intimidation lesson had somehow turned into a masterclass on why humans were absolutely terrifying. His own skull, once a symbol of predatory superiority, now looked like a child's toy next to the monstrosity Marcus had brought. Class dismissed, he whispered, but Marcus Webb wasn't finished. Oh no, not by a long shot. Wait, Professor, he called out cheerfully as the other students scrambled for the exits like their tails were on fire. I haven't even gotten to the fun part yet. Vex 9 froze at the doorway, his three eyes rotating independently in what could only be described as existential dread. Fun part? See, the thing about humans, Marcus continued, settling back into his chair like he was about to share weekend plans instead of nightmare fuel, is that we don't just survive alongside apex predators. We collect them. As pets. Pets? Vex 9's voice cracked higher than a pubescent Karathi's. Marcus nodded enthusiastically. My neighbor back on Earth? She's got a python named Mr. Snuggles. 20-foot constrictor that could crush my ribcage without breaking a sweat. She lets it sleep in her bed. For warmth, she says. He paused thoughtfully. Course, that's nothing compared to my buddy Jake who keeps sharks. Sharks? The word came out as barely a whisper. Ocean predators. All teeth and attitude. Jake's got a whole tank of them in his living room. Feeds them by hand sometimes, just to show off to dates. Works surprisingly well, actually. Zara 3, who had been trying to sneak out while sparkling like a malfunctioning light fixture, stopped dead in her tracks. You keep ocean demons as entertainment? Entertainment's one word for it, Marcus agreed. Though technically, Jake's are just babies. The really big ones, the great whites? They can grow up to 20 feet long and have about 300 teeth arranged in rows. When they lose one, another just slides right into place. Nature's version of a magazine-fed weapon system. Vex 9 slumped against the doorframe. His entire worldview was crumbling faster than a